Good afternoon. You're listening to the Love Bay Afrobeat Red Music Radio Talk Show on the Relationship and Marriage Hour. We are indeed happy to be back in your company this afternoon. Dr. Alvin is not with us, but we have a well capable young man who is able to join us with this topic. Help, the flame in my marriage has died. If that sounds like your marriage this afternoon, we want you to pull up a chair and listen because we have some good tips that we want to share with you. Because, sometimes when you would have been in a marriage for a number of years, we tend to become familiar with our spouses. And as a result, we take each other for granted and the flames can die. But we don't want that to happen because we know that the flame can continue to burn if we are focused, if we are working it, it will continue to burn. So this afternoon, I love our topic for this afternoon because we believe that we would be able to help someone. And we have with us Mr. Franklin Bethel, and we are going to ask him to just introduce himself, tell us a little about what he does because he also worked with married couples. So we're going to allow him to just say hi and to share and let us know who he is.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Minister Franklin Bethel. Um, my passion is in marriage counseling, and I do a lot of premarital counseling, and I'm open to persons who are in need. So that's who I am.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bethel. And of course, I am Dr. Marie McDonald, your host for this afternoon. So let us just go right into our program so that we can get this ball rolling. Um, Franklin, Bethel, we see a lot of marriages, especially the seasoned marriages, I can say. Anything beyond 10 years, within some of those relationships, they tend to become sluggish, they tend to become familiar, and eventually the flame began to flicker. But we sing a song, it only take a spark. So I believe that some of those flames that have gone out, some of them that are still flickering, there is hope. Now let's look at some of the reason why the flame tend to go out from your perspective. um, Mr. Bethel, tell us, why do you think some of the flames in our relationship goes out? Is it because we become selfish? We just want to do things our way? Is it because we tell us your thought on some of the things that can cause a flame to go out in the relationship?
I think one of the number one issue is is a worldwide situation today, and it is something that has developed over the years called where females in general are now saying they want their an, autonomy. Okay, you
Mm,
find you find females they're talking a lot about what they call it again when females say they don't need anyone. They don't need a man.
ooh, women's
Okay.
lib.
Yeah. They feel like they don't need to listen to the husbands anymore, and not that
Hmm.
husbands ought to be dictating, because I don't believe God places us in a situation where we supposed to be dictating to our wives. You know, I read something from Dr. Miles Monroe one time, and I thought it was very interesting. What he did say is, Why, when you go to the altar to get married, the man is called the bridegroom. And he said the reason he is called the bridegroom is because he should be grooming his bride, not
Mm.
lording over her, not dictating to her, but grooming her. You see, and I think, in most cases today, everybody feels like, you don't tell me what to do. But it's not a matter of telling what to do. It is looking at what God has ordained in marriages. One of the things I mentioned to a group one time is that the reason why I believe Paul wrote in his book saying, "Wives, submit to your own." I believe the reason why he put your own husband in there is because when you look back in the garden, Eve did not listen to her own husband. She listened to somebody
Oh, this is going to be a great topic.
else.
This
So here we have to be very careful when we start to listen to other voices. You see, and I
mm,
think that's one of our big problems in marriages today. Uh, um, everybody want to have their own way. Everybody want to do their own thing. I read something the other day, and let me read to you what it says, because I WhatsApp it to myself. I thought it was so good. It's a couples who have been married a long time have shared many experiences and have developed a deep understanding of each other. They have learned to navigate the challenges and celebrate successes together, requiring ongoing efforts and commitment. Long term marriages often involve shared memories. You only get that through long term. Shared experiences and a commitment to be there for each other through thick and thin. You see, and that happens, over a period of years.
mhm.
Um, it's not that me a lot of we're going to celebrate 58 years this year, and it's not that we never argued. It's not that every day is sugar and spice. No, that don't mean that. But it is, after you be together for such a long time, you get to understand each other, and then
Right,
you get to understand that. Listen, if I was to say, let me do away this marriage and let me just look for another wife, you're gonna find the same problems.
hmm. So
You're
then,
gonna find the same problems.
yes. So what I'm hearing from you then is that one of the problems that we face is because of the woman. And that may be true in some instances, but what happens when it's not only the woman? Because you can also have a man that is maybe he is listening to his friends, and as a result, he feel he should treat his wife a certain way, you know. So it may not always be the woman's desire to want to be in control, but you will have it just happens.
Hmm.
There are other voices that that couple may not or should not be listening to.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't put all the blame on the woman. That's why I say it's got to be
Yes,
love.
I
Because
started.
we,
I started out like that. Um, but you are very much correct. It is not, and all in capital letters, not only a female trait or female problem. In most cases, you see, we have to be in a position where we are able to listen to each other. I don't know everything, and you don't know everything. The things that you know that I don't know, I need to listen. The things that I
Hmm.
know that you don't need, that you don't know, you need to listen. I opened with that because I was in a meeting one time, and and one of the things that the panelists were saying is that they don't need a man's permission if they want to not have bring their child forth. They don't need. You see, I always say it takes two to tango, and if it took two to tango, two should make the decision. If you
So you
determine,
saying the, mhm.
go ahead.
So you're saying the women are saying they do not need the man's permission to take their child. Is that's what you're saying?
Yes.
Who?
What this person had said is that they don't need a man's um, um, permission. And I sometimes words can destroy people. Um, and
Yes.
sometimes using words like "you need my permission," it is not really going across the way that it is said. Not that you need my permission, but it is something that should be discussed. Anything within a marriage relationship should be discussed among themselves, especially if it is gonna if it's gonna hurt something that is between the two of you.
Right.
If
Well,
it only
that
involves me, I could make a
right,
decision. If it only
right,
involves you, you could make a decision. But anything that is going to involve us, we
right.
need to make that
And,
decision together.
and what that is saying to me, Minister Bethel, is that communication has to be a key in the relationship so that there is no misunderstanding. But what I've seen, some of the common problems that causes the fire to die is lack of respect for your spouse. I also see, you said it so well, where maybe the wife, and it could also be the husband, because I don't want to beat up on my sisters, right? But sometimes it's the husband as well. They may not want to listen. I'm the man in the house, so you listen to me, not the opposite way around. But that is where respect comes in. If he respects her, then he will hear her out. And same thing, vice versa for the woman. That those two, they're the common things to
Mhm,
cause a relationship to die. And the third one I
mhm.
would say
I think you starting to break up. I
do
losing
not
you.
give his
Mhm.
wife his attention. Right. Okay, the third point I want to look at is when the husband doesn't give his wife his undivided attention in the relationship. Because we can be in the same house, and every time there's a conversation, he's running out the door, he's busy with something, he's not, you understand? And then a fourth one, which is common, is when you are taking advice from persons that are not in the relationship. We have our friends, we have our family members. They will tell you, oh, this is how you should run your house. All of these will cause the fire to go out in a relationship. Let's look at when that man is not giving his wife or that woman is not giving her husband their undivided attention. How do you think? What do you think then will happen, or how will that marriage survive if there is no proper um, communication?
Yes, one of the things that I always say whenever I am doing any pre premarital counseling, one of the things when I speak with both of them, I says, um, because I like to use the portion of scripture where it talks about husbands love your wives, even as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. That there is very deep when you talk about when to love the way Christ loved, unconditional love. But it went on to say, wives, submit to your own husband. Now, that word submit is what a lot of wives have a problem with. Because I think they misunderstand the word submit. What it means is respect. That's all that means. But at the same time, the same Bible that says husbands love your wives is the same Bible that says love ye one another. The same Bible that says wives submit to your own husbands, it's the same Bible that says submit ye one to another. So there's not a case where one submit to the other and the other love. I love you if you submit to me, or I will only submit to you if you love me. No, everything is unconditional as far as God is concerned. But both of them are supposed to love each other and submit to each other. Now there is one that you number four that got my attention, listening to other people. And here we have to be very, very, very careful. I always tell married couples, be careful with listening to other voices. That's husbands and wives. That ain't just wives. Because you never know what guy have his eye on your wife. And when he bring you information, you don't know where that information is to destroy your marriage for his good.
Mm.
And likewise, when a female brings something to the wives to say, child, if I was you, I'll do this with him. Be very careful with those kind of things. Because you don't know whether she has a eye on your husband.
Mm.
You all sit
Wow.
down, figure this thing out for yourselves, and work this through on your own. Be very careful with who you ask for advice. And that's my
Hmm.
what I always tell people.
Well, Minister Franklin, do you think then that if there is a problem in the relationship, do you think that it's advisable to a couple to go and seek outside help before they confront one another? Because I believe this is a big problem. People tend, when there's a relation problem, a rift in the relationship, they would then go and ask the advice of someone outside as opposed to coming in. Do you think that is the right thing for either party to do in a
I,
relationship?
I think what they ought to do is sit down and talk among themselves first. Um, in most cases, I've found that whenever one party would express their dislike, the other party take exception and they take it personally. I think what we ought to do is sit down, listen, 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 and they say that's why God gave us two ears and only one mouth, so you could listen twice as much as you speak. So once we can sit down and we can listen to each other and hear the concerns of each other, then I think you probably wouldn't even need to go on the outside because you might be able to solve your own problems.
Right.
Sometimes outside help, if you get the right persons, they can assist you. But then sometimes we just need to sit down among ourselves and see how we as adults can see how we can bring out the best in each other. You know, sometimes when me and my wife we may have our little argument And when we finish, we done. My daughter have one saying, "I done with that."
Yeah.
And sometimes we just say, now it's easy. And you would know as a female, it's easy for a man to say that. It's not that easy for a female to say that. Because a
Mm,
man could he get up and then he could come back and he could start talking, and the wives may say, well, hey, you just did this and you just did that. But where we have to be careful is looking back.
yes. That's a good point, Minister. About seeking to resolve an issue within before you take it without. But because we are different, we got to understand some people will be bringing in preconceived ideas, and that is what sometimes causes friction because we believe that this is how something should work. And I believe that can be a challenge in a relationship more
Hmm.
than just having a communication issue. But when there are preconceived ideas, in order for them to move forward, then you would have to clear all those um, preconceived ideas, subconscious thoughts, to be able to move forward.
Hmm.
Because those are the little things we do not see much of. But majority of the relationships that may go through, there's always this notion of, I think if we do it this way, and sometimes it comes by what we see. We
Hmm.
see someone relationship look like it's getting along pretty well. We don't know how they're doing it. We don't know what they are doing, but we look at that, and then when we have any discussion, the first thing we bring up, we look at their relationship, and we feel we have to now make it work like theirs. But we don't know that they just had a big argument last night, but they're out
Hmm.
in the public and they look as though
And
they're
he's
happy
smiling and
and
everything.
right. So these are the things that fool and causes the marriage
Hmm.
to, stay on rocky ground because we're
Hmm.
watching the other couple. But the,
Hmm.
the thing, the wisdom with the other couple is they know how to keep that to themselves.
Hmm.
They don't air their dirty laundry to the public.
Hmm.
They deal with everything in a discreet manner. And then
Hmm.
when they come to the public, all the people see, oh, they look like everything is fine with them.
Yes.
This-
Hmm.
I believe this is one hurdle that we have to help people to get over.
Hmm.
In other words, we need to work out our strategy, whatever we need that's unique to our relationship,
Hmm.
and that comes through communication, sitting down,
Yes.
talking about it.
Yes. Uh, something you said, listening, looking at other relationships. There's a saying, and we need to listen to exactly what this saying is saying. Listen to exactly to what this saying is saying.
Hmm.
The grass look greener
Always,
on the other side.
yes,
It
exactly.
looks greener on the other side. That don't mean that it is.
Yes,
You
yes.
see? And one of the problems we get into is from the outset. I always, when I'm doing premarital counseling, I want to talk to the female by herself and I want to talk to the male by himself. You see, sometimes we get into these marriages not knowing each other.
Right.
You see, I want to know how well do you know him? What type of person he is? I
Hmm.
want to know what about his parents? Are they married? Number one. Are they divorced? Number two. I need to know, do they fight? You
Mm.
see, because if a young boy grow up in a home where the father is always beating up on the wife, he's gonna feel that this is
That's
what a
the
man's
norm.
supposed to do.
Yeah,
You see,
yeah.
so a lot of time, both men and women they jump in these marriages not knowing the other
Hmm.
person. You
Wow,
see, and
that's
that's one of
powerful.
our biggest mistakes. We
Yes.
need to know exactly who it is we are marrying. And some people will
Hmm.
say, wait, but I love him. And a lot of times I ask the one question,
Hmm.
what does that one word mean? What does it mean? When you say, I love him, what does that mean? And a lot of the
Right.
time, people use this word and don't even know what it means. I say,
Wow.
if you want to know what love is, check out First Corinthians 13. It
Hmm.
gives you an idea of what love is. It's patient, it's kind,
Wow.
it's long suffering, long suffering. It does not seek self interest, it looks out for one another. You see, you need to understand this word when you start talking about I love him. Understand, are you willing to listen to him? Are you willing to listen to her? Are you willing there's something somebody I was in a group one time, and somebody that they were talking about how you can um, love somebody and with mistrust. I say now you're walking on dangerous ground because that is very difficult when you can talk about you don't trust a person but you love them. I mean, how does that work? That you can look, see, you cannot love somebody with the real love if you don't trust them. How can you? I don't trust you, but I love you. How- That don't go to they don't go together.
They don't
You
go
see,
together.
here we need
That's
to
right.
build, we must build trust. Trust and respect, they are the two biggest things in marriages, that hurdles that we need to overcome.
Right. Wow. So let's look at some of the signs that will show you that your marriage is headed down a dying a road that it will be that it's dying, right? If your marriage is dying, I believe some of the things that you will see is the lack of respect. You will see a lack of respect. There will be constant argument over simple things that can be resolved. And the biggest one always is communication.
Hmm.
Anytime you see you cannot sit together and communicate without a big argument erupted, then you are walking then on a dying, marriage.
Hmm.
So how then can we help these persons, Franklin? How do you think we can help to improve the communication, improve the respect? I personally feel that when we see these signs happening, for me, my first thought as the woman, let me pull back, see what I've contributed to before I even approach the situation. We want to hear it from your perspective as a male,
Hmm.
right? Because as a female, the first thing we would want to do is pull back.
Hmm.
And listen, there are sometimes in your marriage, kid you not, you could become so angry with your spouse. You don't want to talk to him or her. You're so fed up. You're so upset. Now,
Hmm.
that's taking it to the extreme. So, the first thing is to then find out where I'm at, what I've contributed to. How can I pull back and correct my mistake? Because oftentimes we don't see our mistake,
Hmm.
minister. We see the other person's fault. Oh, he's done this. He's done that. He always do this. He makes me upset. So if we continue to see that, if we continue to speak that, we will stay.
Hmm.
So, to help to restore a relationship, we then need to pull back and find out. Melissa Jean, I agree. I agree. It is true because we face so many people that want to have a good relationship, but we have to now humble ourselves. and deal with ourselves first.
mhm.
There's a scripture in the Bible, Minister Franklin, that says, "How can you come take a little mote that is in my eye, and you got this whole beam across your face, your eye, and you looking at the little thing that is mine?" So let's for the female, we're gonna check ourselves.
Mhm,
We're gonna see where we at fault, and
mhm,
then we're gonna try pull it in. And
mhm,
and and my first suggestion would then be apologize for what
mhm,
we would have done. See, because we want to start something fresh. We want to make this
mhm,
thing work. The flame is dying, but there's still a little
mhm,
spark that can catch. So before that little spark goes out, and then you have to go out and look for counseling,
mhm,
professional counseling, which is going to take more time. Catch that spark before it goes out,
mhm,
and let us check ourselves. And then when you go, I always tell people, do not go ever and say, "You make me mad when you do this." No,
mhm,
let's reverse our language
mhm,
and say, I do not like it when you do
mhm,
this. But
mhm,
if you go in that accusing voice, it's going to lit another spark for argument. So I feel that as the women, we need to just step back, take our responsibility, go forward, and say,
mhm,
"Look, I apologize. I've done this in the relationship. Even if you didn't do it, whatever
mhm,
part you contributed to, that's the part you want to take."
mhm,
And
mhm,
one of the things as human beings, we tend to pick on issues. But my suggestion is, we messed up. Now we want to make it work. We want to correct it. We have to now
mhm.
bite the bullet, accept our wrong, and then move forward. So, Minister Franklin, from a man perspective, tell me, how would you deal with um, pulling in a relationship that is
Yes,
only
yes,
flickering by the flame?
yes. I opened, and I don't want the wrong message in my opening statement to be taken um, really out of context. That I opened bashing the females. I don't want that to go across. Um, I know I mentioned in the word today. The words that are floating around is women's liberation and women's equality. Um, you know, um, let me say, God made us different. I think we need to be very careful with the word. You see, because in a relationship, there's no liberation. In a marriage relationship, there's no liberation. There's no you do your thing and I do my thing. I and you said it so very well. Um, you speak to a wife who is having problem, and she say, "Well, where my husband this and my husband that," and you talk to the man, and he say, "My wife this and my wife that." Um, I listened to a wife one time, and after she told me everything about what the husband did, because the husband started to cheat, and everything was only pointing at him. So when she was done, I asked her one question. I said, after listening to you, is there anything, even if there's only one, is there anything that you might have done to contribute to this marriage, to this them going out?
Wow, good
So
point.
that's the area where sometimes on both sides we don't want to go into. We only want to deal with what the other person did.
Yes.
You see, I said, there is, if you look at, I always tell people, if you're looking for a perfect husband, you ain't gonna find him.
Mm-mm.
If you're looking for a
Lord, what?
perfect wife, you're not
Yeah.
gonna find her. There's no such thing as a
No.
perfect wife or a perfect husband. We all have flaws, but we just need to know if the floor get wet, you just take them up and let's just start cleaning up the floor. We can't just keep pointing the finger at each other, saying that you did this and you. There is a word that we must be careful with. Two words, I should say, and those two words are the word "but" and "because." You don't use those two words when you want to apologize. Well, I
Mhm.
apologize, but you did this. That's not an apology.
Mm, no.
I apologize, but it happened because you did. Those two words are not supposed to be a part of an apology.
Yes.
If I did something, I apologize. Full stop.
Yes.
It's not because of what you did, because we already know what you did. We
Hmm.
need to now move on from this point and see how we could bring this thing back together. But
Right.
as far as keep pointing fingers and looking back, uh, we need to be very careful with that.
Yes. That's some good point. Um, so we want to look at things, continue looking at what are some of the things. Are you happy in your marriage? If your marriage is one that you've grown unhappy about, that means you're headed down a dying path. The marriage you should always be feeling a sense of satisfaction, love. You really want to please your husband, and your husband wants to please you. And if you're not seeing those things, as simple as it may be, that means
Mm.
you're headed down the wrong
A
path.
dying road.
But yeah, the dying road, but there is hope. That's what I
Hmm.
like. Even if that marriage, Mr. Franklin, if that marriage has already died, there is still hope. I've heard of a couple that they couldn't stay together, and they parted, but they had to come back together because they
Hmm.
love each other.
Hmm.
But sometimes our selfishness, our pride can get in the
Hmm.
way. One thing I can share from my experience in marriage, like you said, Minister Franklin, is so true. The men will forgive quickly, but the women we tend to hold on a little longer. And I remember my brother-in-law, him and his wife would be upset and mad, not speaking, for a short time. And he's so used to talking now, and he'd forget, and he'd come back and he would go and ask us something. He'd say, "Oh, I forget I'm mad with you," right? So, but he couldn't stay away. You have the little moments.
Yeah.
Uh, but for me, when I first got married, oh my Lord, when I was upset over anything, I was upset. And there was
Hmm.
no talking. I stay in my corner. I have
Hmm.
nothing to say. And my husband will be there trying to make talk, make conversation. And I'm just mad as ever. But I matured. I matured. So, these are the things that can cause a relationship because as women. So, speaking to my sisters that are listening, let's not keep that malice. You have a problem, you deal with the problem once and for all, and then you move on. And it may come back again,
Hmm.
then you deal with it again. But do not keep it because I
Yeah.
think we are not the male and female, we are built totally different.
Hmm.
Uh, Sometimes the men can only take so much, and we can be sometimes forceful. But if we
Hmm.
want to build a beautiful relationship, when you would have gotten upset, you say what you have to say, and then you move on. But
Hmm.
Minister Franklin, there's one thing I would like to point out from our sisterhood. Sometimes the women we tend to say things that we may not mean.
Just give me one
We may
second. Let me, Annette.
collect, yeah, we may say we may say things that we we may say things that we do not mean, but
Hmm.
because we are angry at the time, and
Hmm.
we cannot do that. always what, do not say what you don't mean, but you know, because these
Yeah.
are the things that will come back to bite us.
Yeah. There are some things that are said in the heat of the moment. Not everything that is said in the heat of the moment is really meant.
It isn't meant it. No.
Um, but you see, what happened is people say things, number one, because they want to get a point across.
Or they want to
Sometimes they
hurt
want,
the other person.
yeah,
Yeah.
they want you to feel something.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see, so we have to be very careful. There are there are some realities that we must face when you're dealing with male and female. Male, they have broad shoulders and they can take a lot. Females, you have to be there and comfort them. You have to treat them with care. And that's the difference between male and female. I told a group the other day. I said you have to in marriage relationship. It is like it's like a diamond. The diamond that you see today ain't the diamond, ain't what it was start how it start out. It only started out like a lump of coal, but then it had to go through the fire. It was beaten, it was bruised, it was carved. You see, and from time to time, even when the diamond is completed, it has to be periodically polished. So we
Polish.
have to
Yes.
continue
Yes.
polishing our
I like.
marriages. We have to
I like that.
continue treating it with care, treating each
Mhm.
other with care. So men need to understand females, and likewise, females need the most important thing for a man, the most important. And a lot of people ask you, what is a man's number one? A lot of people say sex. No, that may be number two. Respect,
Mm.
not
Wow.
sex.
Right.
Respect. If he can get that respect, even if you bypass the sex now and then, he happy. Just respect him.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's powerful.
yeah. And that's where we
That's
have to be
powerful.
very, very careful when we start to deal with each other.
Hmm.
You see,
That's
it's
powerful.
very. I came across there's something else that I came across what I wanted to. Um, um, I read this the other day. It says this guy was saying, when I first met my wife, he said they had reasons why they loved each other, reasons why they wanted to get married. He says, as a matter of fact, they had a list of reasons why they loved each other.
Hmm.
Now, that may sound like a wonderful thing, but he said after they left a tour that they were on, they realized that when you have reasons, there are no conditions.
Mm.
Okay? And if, or there are conditions, I should say. When you have reasons, there are conditions. And if the conditions are not met, or if the reasons are not met, then you have problems. You
Hmm.
see, and this is why the Bible talks about unconditional love. So he said, today, he said, we love each other for no reason. So they got
Wow.
rid of the conditions, and it became an unconditional love. Because if your marriage
Wow.
is based on conditions, then you have to always be looking at how you can fulfill these conditions.
Wow.
Now, that
That
ain't
is.
to say that you don't need to, there will not be, there will be some, but if your marriage is based on those conditions only. your
Yes.
partner.
Yes.
We
Wow.
have to be very careful.
That's powerful. So that means you have to you don't you even though you're guided by the conditions that you want to see, that is not your reason for being married. You married because you love and you want to
Exactly.
make this relationship work.
And you want
And
to satisfy one another.
exactly.
Hmm.
And that is good because sometimes, people do not they have these um um preconceived thoughts, that if I have these listed, then there's a problem. No. So I agree that you have your ideas, but you don't allow that to be the only thing that govern you and keep you moving
Hmm.
forward. That is some good stuff. That is
Yeah.
really good. So those persons that are going through one of the lack, Minister Franklin, is intimacy.
Hmm.
When the marriage is dying, then you see a lack of intimacy.
Hmm.
And this can cause the relationship to even die faster because
Hmm.
you don't have that desire for each other. You don't want to be around them. um, you don't have shared activities no more.
Hmm.
Before time, you perhaps used to take a walk, used to go and buy ice cream, take a
Hmm.
drive, take a trip, whatever. And eventually, when that begin to die, something is going on. And Minister Frank, if we can catch these little issues before it builds to another problem, we will not have so many, or it will not be so hard to resolve our problems. But if we allow it to fester, we say, if we allow it to just stay there and grow,
Hmm.
you find something else is added to it, and then you begin to build on it.
Hmm.
Because I can say, Minister Franklin, I believe that there is no relationship that dies and break up overnight.
Hmm.
It's a period of um, confusion, arguments, and
Hmm.
then instead of resolving that, you add to that. Then you begin to find fault with your spouse. And when you do that, then you're building. It's like building block. You add into it, and
Hmm.
then one day it hits the ceiling, and then it's over. And then sometimes you feel that all hope is gone because I've done this,
Hmm.
I've tried that, it didn't work. But here's an advice that I would love to offer.
Hmm.
The first problem that arises in your relationship, deal with it and deal with it well. And when you would have dealt with that, that's finished. That's water under the bridge. Leave it alone.
Hmm.
Do not go and resurrect what was dealt with. And we could do that so well.
Hmm.
We can do that very well. So if we're going to keep the fire burning, we can't, you know, treat each other so
You
careless.
can't keep looking back.
No,
Yeah.
no.
You know, Dr. Marie, there are two different types of brains. There's a man's brain and there's a female's brain. A man, you go to a man with an issue. You see, there are two boxes. The female have her box and the male have his box. In the female's
Mhm.
box, it's loaded with stuff.
Right.
In a man's box, there's only one thing. So when any issues arise and they go to their various boxes, if you have an issue with me with a particular thing, and you could, the man only got one thing in that box, and that's a one issue. So he gonna deal with that one thing. When the females go into her box, Oh, it's loaded. It's loaded with stuff what you did today, stuff what you did yesterday, even stuff what you did a couple of years ago, and all of those things. He's only going to deal with that one thing. He want to get
Do
that
you
one thing
really
out the way. The
do you
female,
really think so?
yes, and she has to get she has to clear that box.
I wish our listening audience could chime in on this because, especially some of my sisters that are listening, I'm not sure. I am not
Yes.
sure, Minister Franklin,
So
that it is
you
always
believe men pull up all sorts of stuff as well?
sometimes there are some men, not all of them. They would put everything in their box. Everything would be in that box from day one. And sometimes they may not address any of those issues, but they have them in the box and they let it grow and grow and grow. And when they burst out, everything comes out, things you didn't even know mattered or hurt him. So I will not.
That
Um,
might be one or two male, but we're talking generally speaking now.
mhm.
Men men deal they confront the issue, and I think all of our listening female audience would also agree that because I get in arguments, and I know a lot of the female on listening audience, they get in arguments as well, and they would dig and pull up stuff and pull up. Once they get across one issue, they say, "Yeah, but you remember last year when you did that," and all of those things are going to come up. You see,
Okay.
now there's some one time I read relationships never die a natural death. Does someone have a question or something?
Yes, Melissa Jane is saying that she would want to be understood, so she bring up everything so the man have a clear understanding of what her issue is.
I love that.
I agree, but Melissa, I would hope that you would bring them up when they happen. Don't bring
Yes,
up everything after they would have happened.
yes.
So if it is so that he spilled the milk, make sure you tell him you spilled the
Only
milk
about the milk.
and deal with the milk. Don't bring the onion and all of the other stuff into that conversation.
Yes,
I,
yes.
I agree with what you're saying. Say everything, but one at a time as they happen.
Uh-huh. You know, it was said that marriages never die a natural death.
Mm,
They never die a natural death. What happened is they die because of a lack of interest,
right.
a lack of desire, a lack of love, a lack of respect.
Hmm.
See, these are the things that kill marriages. They don't die naturally. So we have to be careful with these things that
Hmm.
come in to destroy us, and we have to understand the destroyers.
Yeah.
You see, your wife, your husband, is not your enemy.
No.
They may. I always tell people when I doing counseling with them. Sometimes I say, any of you ever bit your tongue?
Oh yes.
And a lot of them they bit the tongue. But
Hmm.
the thing is, in order to eat your food properly, the tongue and the teeth need to be together because the tongue guide the food for the
Hmm.
teeth to eat it, and then the tongue pull it back so that it could swallow it. So you
Yes.
need both the teeth and the tongue to work together. Without the tongue,
Yes.
the food only in your mouth.
Yes.
You see,
And I can say, go
so
ahead.
you need to be able to work together. And I will at this point say something. How would I start off with? Get to know each other, because if you don't know each other, then you could expect anything from them.
Hmm. That is true. You know, I, I believe, like the women, the men wants to be understood as well. Because from experience, I can remember when, in my earlier years of marriage, anytime there's an argument, uh, if I burn the egg for my husband this morning, when that argument come up, you tell me how I burned the egg then. You tell me how I burned it on Tuesday. You tell me how I burned it on Wednesday. You tell me how I burned it on Thursday. So, in other words, he brought up everything,
Uh-huh.
everything. So, and that is not good, because once you would have dealt with, and I think that can be a problem in most marriages. And I had to tell him, I said, look here, if you're talking about the egg today, talk about the egg today. Don't bring
Yeah.
yesterday's egg
Yeah.
into this today's egg. And after repeatedly making that known to him, then it improved.
Mm-hmm.
But like the women, they would bring up
Yeah.
all the old stories,
Mm-hmm.
everything. It's like
Mm-hmm.
our friend Melissa Jean. They want to make sure
So I
he
get the point
understands
across.
and get that point across. But the best thing to do is to deal only with the issue at hand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Deal only with
Need
the
see,
issue at hand.
in, in other words, if you don't, then you can't move forward.
No,
If those
because
things are always collected and stored away, I think what we
yes,
need to do is, every so often we have a garbage truck pass by. We take the
hmm
garbage and we put it in the barrel so that when the
hmm
garbage truck comes, it takes the garbage away. We
right.
need to take we need to take the garbage away, not to
Mm,
return.
yes, I like
And
that.
if we can do that, I think we would have a sort of a smooth sailing. And just
Right.
remember who is in the boat with us.
Yes,
This is a three-way thing. So we have Jesus in the boat with us. So he can always say, Peace, be still.
yes,
So that's one of the main things, who you have in the boat with you.
right. And in the case of, the thing I love for young marriages too is because you can learn how not to make the mistakes that some of us who've been in it long time would have
Mhm.
made. And you would do that simply because you learn from the mistakes of others and what not to do. So when you would have gotten uh, when you in a relationship, you're trying to make it work. You sit down and you talk. You be careful too who you hang with.
Mhm.
The friends, sometimes we hang with people that are doing some unscrupulous things. Men
Mhm.
that are cheating on their wives and they think it easy.
Mhm.
And because you are being the honest and the loyal husband, the that type person, they look at you and then they'll tell you, oh, you're crazy. You need to have someone else on the side.
Mhm.
So for a young couple, even for the elder ones, if you have a
Mhm.
friend that is not taking you in the right direction, the best thing to do is not hang with that friend. You
Mhm.
need to pull away from persons that will try to destroy your relationship. And,
Mhm.
and we can see plenty of that. And then, because if you don't, then there's going to be infidelity.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you know,
Dr. Marie, just on
or
just on that point right there, I I would love to be able to um, give a little piece of advice right here on that point. Today's attire, today's clothing is so revealing. Um, I My advice to females, those who are listening, if you disagree with me, beat me up, okay? But be very careful. I always say I would jump for a woman who is well clothed than someone who is exposing themselves. If you are my wife, if you are my wife, expose yourself in front of me, not nobody else. I'm not in competition with no one else. So do not go out and expose yourself. Walk with me and expose yourself with somebody else. People would respect a female more if they have to wonder what's under her clothes. But if they can see
Mm,
everything, the respect is gone before it even was gotten.
mm-hmm,
I I'm trying to be very careful. Trying to be very careful with what I'm saying, because um, the one thing I do not want to do is to insult anyone. That's the one thing I do
mm-hmm.
not want to do. So please, females who are on, don't take it as an insult what I'm saying right now, but be very careful how you, especially if you're going out without your husband and you're going out with your female friends and you are exposed and you're going to be exposed to other males around, because men gravitate to what they see. A woman gravitate to how you treat her. You treat her well, she'll love you to death. But a man, if he could see anything, he coming after you. I'm talking females on here. As a male who I got saved as a teenager on the side of the road in Palmetto Point, Luce Road. And I tried to walk a straight line ever since. My wife is the very first woman who I had encounter with. Okay? Me personally, anyone who I see well dressed, oh, I love them. But protect yourself, females. Protect yourself. A man has no right to touch a woman because she is exposed. He has no right. At the same time, you have to be very careful with how you present yourself to him because he is going to try to take what he sees. I'm
So,
trying to say, I'm trying to say it as calm as, but to make sure that you females are secured, that you don't get yourselves in trouble. They don't have a right, even if you don't have any clothes on, they do not have a right to touch you. No man have no right to
so,
touch you.
so,
But
Minister Franklin, how then can this affect a married couple? Do you think um, with the woman, I mean, what if he is pleasing him, he is okay with it? How do you think that would affect that relationship?
again,
Because he,
it's
because you
getting
may
to
have
know.
a man that, let me explain that. You
Yeah.
may have a husband that has no problem with
Mm-hmm.
his wife going out there in a revealing whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but help us to understand how can this affect negatively affect a relationship.
Let me give you an idea how he may not have a problem with it. It's the other man who have a problem, and it's not a problem that they have. But when you go out with your husband, however you are dressed, and he don't mind, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you get in the company of other people and their focus is only in a particular the opposite sex is in their focus is in a particular direction, you could be talking and they're hearing you but they're not hearing you because they're focused somewhere else. um my my wife, when she's leaving home, she doesn't dress like an old fogey, but she dresses to cover herself. You see, the main thing is to know your spouse. Once you know your spouse, if your spouse don't have a problem with it, I have no problem with it. And you shouldn't have a problem with it because you want to please your spouse. My wife know that when we go out, both of us, we groom ourselves. Females may not see it as not being groomed. Now, I need to get that out. They may not see anything wrong with it. So if they don't see anything wrong with it, um, you cannot bash a person if they don't see anything wrong with it. But I'm only saying be careful because as men, I could tell you the thinking of men. The man gonna say, I need to hit that. I'm I'm trying to be upfront to let you know the way men think. I let me use myself in a church setting. Let me use myself in a church setting. I'm in a church, sitting in a second row. In the first row, there's a lady right in front of me, and we're doing praise and worship. She has on some tight pants, and she's in front of me, moving, and and I'm trying to close my eye because I don't want to be distracted. I'm in church. So then I start to look at the praise team. And when I look at the praise team, their pants up there so tight that you could see every crevice. And so now what kind of position am I in church? In church. You see, sometimes we go to church like we go to a nightclub, and we have to
But
be very careful. And
right,
I this is not a bash on females because a lot of times a female dress and they just say I'm dressed nice. So
right,
this is not to tear you down, females. Really, it's not.
right. But Minister Franklin, I see that being a problem now in a relationship. If I asked the question earlier, your husband may not have a problem with it, but now it's up to us sisters. If we are wearing something that is rather revealing and you are being punched on by men or they are making remarks to you, then you wouldn't want to be, because some of these men, they don't respect you enough to respect your boundary. You dress how you want to dress, but then they come after you. So
Hmm.
if that is going to cause you to get in trouble in that regard, then you wear it for him, your husband.
Hmm.
That's your body.
Yes,
But you
yes.
don't want to be harassed when you go out. So that is one reason you would want to be careful. Now here's
Yes.
this. Here's what can cause a dying relationship. If you are wearing the skimpy clothes and your husband doesn't want you to go out with it, he wants you to wear it in for him.
Hmm.
Now that, and if you are persistent in doing it and he doesn't like it, that can lead to the death of your relationship
Hmm.
because he is going to feel you are out, you're exposing yourself to the world and he doesn't like it. Now,
Hmm.
if that is one of the things that is happening in your relationship, then of course, if you want to rekindle the flame, you have to just do it for him. If you like how it feels, wear it for him. Knock yourself out, but for him. And if that
Hmm.
makes him happy, then
Yes, yes,
let's make him happy. You want to
yes.
have a beautiful relationship. You want to be able to keep the spice in your relationship.
Hmm.
And if that's what it takes to keep it, and now he has to reciprocate and do likewise, because it can be a
Hmm.
one-way street, and nothing coming back,
Hmm.
right? If we are
Hmm.
talking about restoring the relationship, restoring, bringing it back to life, there are some things both parties have
Both.
to do.
Hmm.
And just before I go any further, I just want our listening audience to know you can join us on the conversation. If you have any questions or comments, text us at
Hmm.
437-778-3399 or reach out to us on the chats, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. We would be happy to hear your comments or your questions. And you're listening to the Relationship and Marriage Hour on the Love Bay Radio. So please join us, ask some questions, Maybe your problem is not what we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
but you can shed some light. So join us on this conversation. Um, the Love Bay Radio is the number one um, diaspora, the number one African, Caribbean, and diaspora online radio. So join in with the conversation, and you know, let's help our sisters and our brothers that may be struggling in their relationship. So I'm saying, Minister Franklin, in order for us to have that, in order for us to restore that relationship, then we have to be intentional with
Mm-hmm.
our spouse. We have to
Mm-hmm.
be intentional with respect for our spouse. We have to treat him with respect, show him love, show her love,
Mm-hmm.
and we talk about before on another program. We talk about taking vacation or taking a day for dating. Take what, for example, if you are a man that goes to work and she goes to work, you come home in the evening. Take at least an hour to sit
Mm-hmm.
down, talk. How was your day? What happened? And give your undivided attention to your spouse. Do not talk in passing. Do not talk as you're walking out the door. We have to be intentional. If we
Mm-hmm.
want a beautiful relationship, listen, you have to do what you've never done before. The
Mm-hmm.
thing that's causing that marriage to die is you want to take the opposite road in order to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to share with all my sisters, we can become very emotional, but let us forget our emotion and let's try to make it work. And
Yes.
sometimes some one of you may be the tough cookie to crack. He may be the tough cookie to crack. Be patient. Crack
Mm-hmm.
that cookie one bite at a time. Don't try to crack it all because you may destroy it. You may
Mm-hmm.
destroy it. Let's do this thing. I believe when Minister Franklin, when we go into a marriage, we don't go in to come out to the next day. Now, those persons that go in and they have all these prenuptials agreements, they going in there without that this thing may work as well
Mm-hmm.
as they thought. But let's go into it with a mindset. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
make this thing work.
Mm-hmm. No
However,
matter what.
ever
Mm-hmm.
come what, no matter what, we're going to make this
Mm-hmm.
work.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my advice to those that may be listening because we have only a few minutes, and Mr. Franklin, I'm coming right back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Here is my advice. When when I when we got married, Mr. Franklin, we knelt on the side of the bed and we prayed. Our prayer was focused on one thing,
Mm-hmm.
that our relationship will not be broken. We prayed that prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people, did we ever come close to breaking up? Plenty time.
Mm-hmm.
Came close to it, but
Mm-hmm.
we are still together.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of growing apart, we grew together.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a lot of love. It takes a lot of patience because
Mm-hmm.
it's never easy. Any journey that involves two people, it's never easy. But I
Mm-hmm.
can say you can make it. You can
Mm-hmm.
make it. So,
Mm-hmm.
Minister Franklin, your last words as to your thoughts on this topic.
I want to say two short, very short things. Um, Number one, here in the Bahamas. I don't know where all our listening audience is listening from. And maybe what I'm going to say about the Bahamas could be, and even in the country, maybe where you are. You drive on the road and you want to get from point A to point B. You may have to, you may fall in a few holes. You may have to divert to avoid hitting some holes. You may have to try to drive in such a way to get where you have to go safely. The main thing is to get there safely. Your marriage relationship is the same thing. There are going to be some bumps on the road. You have to
Yes, yes.
avoid some holes. You're going to navigate, but then you need to have one thing in mind: the destination. And the destination is the very last thing that was said in your marriage vows: till death us do part. Find time. Here's my second point: find time to do things together.
Yes, yes.
Find time. You may not find you never place yourself in a position where you are too busy, where you can do things together. I have a game that I when I get I say that when I get some couples together next time, I'm going to play this particular game. Normally each person play it, but then I want couples to do the figuring out together. Let them figure it out together, the answers together, rather than I figure out my answer, you figure out your answer. Let's come together and let's figure out the answers together. Do things together. And if you can do that enough, you can your marriage can work.
Wonderful. Well, we are not out of content, but we are certainly out of time. It was such a pleasure being with you, and we will see you next week. And we hope that you have a great remaining Sunday afternoon. Bye.